The fluorescent lights of Chicago Memorial's pediatric emergency room had been flickering for 3 days straight, and nobody had bothered to fix them. Maya Sullivan had stopped noticing somewhere around hour 10 of her double shift. Her focus narrowed to the controlled chaos of treating a steady stream of broken bones, fevers, and frightened children who needed someone to tell them everything would be okay, even when she wasn't sure it would be. Maya's scrubs were stained with something she hoped was just juice, her dark hair escaping its bun in wild tendrils, and her feet ached in a way that suggested her cheap sneakers had finally given up any pretense of arch support. But she smiled anyway, as she cleaned a scraped knee on a little boy who'd tried to fly off his bunk bed, her hands steady and gentle. "You're very brave," she said, applying a dinosaur band-aid with theatrical care. "I bet superheroes don't even cry this little when they get hurt." The boy sniffled but straightened. His shoulders. His mother mouthed, "Thank you," over his head, eyes red-rimmed with the exhaustion Maya recognized in her own mirror every morning. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. It was 2:47 a.m., on a Wednesday when everything changed. Maya was at the nurse's station, fighting with the ancient computer system that seemed personally offended by her attempts to update patient charts when the automatic doors burst open. The temperature in the ER seemed to drop 10 degrees as 6 men in dark suits flooded through the entrance, moving with military precision that had nothing to do with medical emergency and everything to do with controlled violence. Her supervisor, Linda, went pale. The security guard, Mike, took 3 steps backward instead of forward. Even Dr. Chen, who'd worked in emergency rooms for 20 years and had seen everything, froze mid-step. But it was the 7th man who made Maya's breath catch in her throat. He was tall and broad-shouldered, maybe 35, with black hair and eyes so dark they looked almost black in the harsh hospital lighting. His charcoal suit probably cost more than Maya's car, and he moved through the ER like he owned it, like he owned everything, with the kind of absolute authority that made people instinctively step aside. In his arms, he carried a small girl, maybe 6 years old, soaking wet and completely limp. "Someone help her," the man said, his voice carrying a slight Italian accent that made the words sound like a command from God himself. "Now." Maya's training kicked in before her brain could catch up. She was moving toward them, hands already reaching for the child, before she registered that everyone else had turned into statues. "Trauma Bay 2? Maya called out, not waiting for approval. "Dr. Chen, I need you." Someone page respiratory. The man's dark eyes locked onto her face with laser intensity. For a moment, Maya thought he might refuse to hand over the child. His arms tightened protectively, and she saw something raw flash across his features. Fear. Real, human fear, that looked wrong on a face carved from granite. "I'm a nurse," Maya said quietly, meeting his eyes. "Let me help her." He studied her for another heartbeat, then carefully transferred the girl into Maya's arms. The child was small, light, her lips tinged blue and her skin cold and clammy. Water dripped from her dark hair, pooling on the floor as Maya ran. "What happened?" Maya asked as they burst into the trauma bay, already laying the girl on the table and reaching for oxygen. "She fell in the pool," the man said, his voice tight with controlled panic. "She wasn't breathing when I pulled her out. I did CPR, got her breathing again, but she won't wake up." Maya's hands moved with practiced efficiency, checking airway, breathing, circulation. The girl's pulse was weak but steady, her breathing shallow but present, but she was unresponsive, eyes closed, small body utterly still, except for the almost imperceptible rise and fall of her chest. "How long was she under?" Dr. Chen asked, appearing at Maya's elbow. "I don't know." For the first time, the man's control cracked. 2 minutes, maybe 3. I was in the house. By the time I got to her, his voice broke. Dr. Chen took over the examination while Maya started an IV line, her hands steady despite the man's presence radiating tension behind her. She could feel him watching every movement, could sense the barely contained violence in his stillness, like a predator forced to trust strangers with something precious. "She's stable, doctor," Chen said after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. "Vitals are improving. We need to monitor for secondary drowning, possible aspiration pneumonia, but she's breathing on her own and her oxygen levels are coming up." "Why won't she wake up?" the man demanded. Dr. Chen glanced at Maya, then back to their patient. Sometimes after a traumatic event, especially in children, the body shuts down. It's a protective response. She might wake up in a few minutes, or a few hours. We'll run tests, make sure there's no brain injury. But right now, we wait. The man looked like he wanted to tear the hospital apart with his bare hands. Instead, he moved to the girl's side, his large hand dwarfing her small one as he took it with surprising gentleness. "Sofia," he whispered, his voice breaking on the name. "Baby, I'm here. Papa's here." Maya felt something crack inside her chest. This dangerous man, this walking threat who'd made an entire ER staff freeze in fear, was just a father terrified for his daughter. She moved to the other side of the bed, checking the monitors, adjusting the oxygen. The girl, Sofia, looked peaceful now, her color improving, looking almost like she was just sleeping. "She's going to be okay," Maya said softly. "You did everything right. The CPR, getting her here so fast. You saved her life." The man's eyes found hers, and Maya saw the weight of the world in them. If she'd been under any longer. But she wasn't. Maya interrupted gently. "She's here. She's breathing. That's what matters." They stood on opposite sides of the bed, a small girl between them, and for a moment, the rest of the world fell away. No emergency room chaos, no armed guards hovering in the doorway, no questions about who this man was or why everyone was so afraid of him. Just a father, a nurse, and a child who needed them both. That's when Sofia's eyes fluttered open. The change in the man was instant. He leaned forward, his grip on her hand tightening. "Sofia? Baby? Can you hear me?" Sofia's dark eyes, so like her father's, focused slowly. She looked at him, and her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her face crumpled with frustration, and her small hands began to move, forming shapes in the air that Maya recognized. Immediately, her heart stopped. Sofia was signing. The girl's hands moved frantically, desperately, but her father was staring at her with growing horror and confusion. He didn't understand. He couldn't understand what his daughter was trying so desperately to tell him. "Papa," scared. "Help me," Sofia signed, her movements becoming more agitated. "Can't talk. Words gone. Please, Papa." Without thinking, Maya's hands moved in response. "It's okay, sweetheart," she signed, her fingers forming the words with a fluidity born from years of practice. "You're safe now. Your papa is here." Sofia's eyes went wide, then flooded with tears of relief. Her hands flew even faster. "You can see me? You understand?" "Yes, I understand," Maya signed back. "What happened, Sofia? Can you tell me?" The little girl's face scrunched up, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. But before she could respond, Maya felt the weight of absolute attention on her. She looked up to find the man staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Shock, certainly, maybe suspicion, and underneath it all, something that looked almost like hope. "You know sign language?" he said. And it wasn't a question. "Yes," Maya said simply. "How?" "My younger sister was deaf." Maya's throat tightened the way it always did when she talked about Emma. "I learned when I was 12. She died 3 years ago, but I never forgot." The man's eyes searched her face like he was trying to see into her soul. Then he looked back at his daughter, at her small hands still moving in signs he couldn't read, and Maya saw something break in him. "What is she saying?" His voice was rough. "Please, what is she saying?" Maya looked down at Sofia, at this frightened little girl who just survived something terrifying and couldn't make anyone understand. She knew that isolation. Had watched Emma experience it 1,000 times before Maya learned to bridge the gap. "She's asking if you're okay," Maya signed and spoke. Simultaneously, "She's scared. She says she can't talk, that her words are gone." The man's jaw clenched. "She could talk before. She spoke this morning. Sometimes trauma can cause temporary mutism, doctor," Chen interjected gently. "The drowning, the fear, it might have triggered a psychological response. It's not uncommon in children after—" "How long?" the man interrupted. "How long until she can talk again?" Dr. Chen hesitated. "It varies. Days, weeks, sometimes longer. We'll need a full evaluation. But right now, the important thing is that she's awake and responsive." Maya watched Sofia's hands move again. Smaller now, more tentative. "Papa doesn't understand me anymore." Maya's heart shattered. She looked at this powerful man who'd probably never felt helpless in his life, and at his daughter who was trapped in silence, and made a decision that would change everything. "I can teach you," Maya said quietly. "Sign language. So you can talk to her." The man's dark eyes locked onto hers. "How long would that take? Basic communication? A few weeks if you practice every day." "But," Maya hesitated, then pushed forward. "It would be easier if I could work with both of you. Help Sofia adjust, teach you as we go. Make sure she doesn't feel isolated." "You would do that?" His voice carried an edge of suspicion. "Take on a private patient outside your hospital duties?" Maya looked at Sofia, at the hope blooming in those dark eyes. "Yes." "Why?" "Because I know what it's like to watch someone you love be invisible to the world," Maya wanted to say. "Because I promised Emma I'd always help when I could. Because this little girl reminds me of every time my sister needed someone and no one could understand her. But what came out was simpler. Because she needs help. And I can give it." The man studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket, and Maya's heart lurched as his guards by the door tensed. But he pulled out a business card, plain black with silver lettering. "Dante Caruso," he said, handing it to her. The name meant nothing to Maya, but she saw Dr. Chen's face go white behind him. "My daughter and I would be grateful for your assistance." Maya took the card, her fingers brushing his. "I'm Maya Sullivan, and I'll do everything I can to help Sofia." Sofia's hands moved again, rapid and excited. "She's going to help me? Really, Papa?" "What did she say?" Dante asked immediately. Maya smiled, signing as she spoke. "She wants to know if I'm really going to help her." Dante looked at his daughter, and the love in his expression was so raw it hurt to witness. Then he did something that surprised Maya. His large hands moved in clumsy, halting signs that were clearly unpracticed. "Yes, she help you." Sofia's face lit up like the sun, and she launched herself at her father, small arms wrapping around his neck. Dante held her like she was made of glass, his eyes closing briefly in relief. Over his daughter's head, Dante's gaze found Maya's again. "Name your price, Miss Sullivan. Whatever you want. Money, resources, anything." Maya thought about her student loans, the crushing debt that kept her working doubles and living on ramen, the eviction notice she'd received last week, the collection calls she'd stopped answering. But looking at Sofia's grateful face, she knew she'd have helped regardless. "We can discuss compensation later," Maya said. "Right now, let's focus on making sure Sofia is medically clear. Then we'll talk about a treatment plan." Dante nodded slowly. "I'll have my attorney contact you with an offer. Whatever you're making here, I'll triple it." "Mr. Caruso, Dante," he corrected. "Dante," Maya repeated, the name feeling strange on her tongue. "That's not necessary." "Yes," he said with absolute finality. "It is." 4 hours later, after every test came back clear, and Sofia was officially discharged, Maya walked them to the hospital's private exit. Dante's men had cleared the hallway, creating a bubble of privacy that felt surreal. Sofia held Maya's hand the entire way, her small fingers gripping tight. She'd refused to let go since waking up, as if Maya was a lifeline she couldn't release. "She likes you," Dante observed, watching their joined hands. "I like her too," Maya said honestly. She knelt down to Sofia's level, signing carefully. "I'll see you soon, okay? We're going to work together, you and me and your papa." Sofia's hands moved quickly. "Promise? You won't disappear like everyone else?" The question hit Maya like a punch. "What does that mean?" Sofia's face crumpled. "After Mama died, everyone stopped coming. They look at me, but they don't see me." "Not really." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She glanced up at Dante, whose jaw had gone tight, before looking back at Sofia. "I promise," Maya signed firmly. "I see you, Sofia, and I'm not going anywhere." Sofia threw her arms around Maya's neck, and Maya held her, this small stranger who'd somehow become important in the span of a few hours. When they pulled apart, Dante was watching them with an unreadable expression. "My driver will pick you up tomorrow evening. We'll discuss the arrangement." "I work until 7, Maya started to protest. "Then he'll pick you up at 7:15. Dante's tone made it clear this wasn't negotiable. "You'll have dinner with us. Meet Sofia properly. See what you're agreeing to." Maya wanted to argue, to maintain some semblance of control over her life. But Sofia was looking at her with such hope, such desperate need, that she couldn't bring herself to refuse. "Okay," Maya said. 7:15. As she watched them leave, Sofia looking back twice to wave, Maya felt the weight of what she'd just agreed to settling on her shoulders. She didn't know that Dante Caruso was the most dangerous man in Chicago. She didn't know that his enemies would see her as a weakness to exploit. She didn't know that by saving Sofia's life, she'd just made herself a target. All she knew was that a little girl needed her, and Maya had never been able to walk away from someone who needed help, even when she should have, even when it would cost her everything. Behind her, Linda appeared, her face pale. "Maya, do you have any idea who that was?" "A father with a daughter who needs help," Maya said simply. "That was Dante Caruso," Linda hissed. "He runs half of Chicago's underground. He's dangerous, Maya. You can't." "A little girl almost drowned tonight," Maya interrupted, suddenly exhausted. "And I'm the only person in this hospital who can help her communicate. That's all that matters." She walked away before Linda could argue, but her supervisor's words echoed in her mind. Dangerous. Maya looked down at the business card in her hand, at the elegant lettering, and wondered what she'd just gotten herself into. In the parking lot, Sofia climbed into the back of a black SUV that probably cost more than Maya's annual salary. She pressed her face against the window, signing through the glass. "Thank you," Maya signed back. "You're welcome." She stood in the cold Chicago night and watched them drive away, unaware that her life had just changed forever. Unaware that in helping Sofia Caruso, she'd just become part of a world where kindness was a liability and trust could get you killed. Unaware that the man whose card she held would soon decide she was too valuable to let go, too precious to risk losing, too important to remain unprotected. And in Dante Caruso's world, protecting something meant owning it completely. The next evening, Maya found herself standing in front of the sleek black SUV Dante had promised would pick her up. Her stomach was a knot of anticipation and unease, her mind racing through every possible scenario. She wasn't just stepping into a wealthy household, she was stepping into the heart of Chicago's underworld, and the man waiting for her was as enigmatic as he was dangerous. The door opened before she could knock, and Dante himself extended a hand. His expression was unreadable, but there was a quiet intensity in his gaze that made Maya instinctively straighten her posture. Sofia was already inside, fidgeting in the plush back seat, her small hands clutching a stuffed dinosaur. "Ready?" Dante asked, his voice calm but authoritative. Maya nodded, sliding into the car beside his daughter. She felt the weight of the moment, how a simple ride home could change the course of all their lives. Sofia leaned against her, whispering in rapid signs. "I'm scared. Will Papa be mad if I talk too much?" Maya smiled softly, fingers moving fluidly. "No one's mad here, Sofia. We're a team now." Dante's eyes flicked briefly to them, a mixture of suspicion and curiosity in his gaze. "You know how to keep up?" he asked Maya, almost as if testing her. "I've kept up with tougher cases," she replied lightly, though her pulse had quickened. The car stopped in front of a mansion that seemed too large to exist on a normal Chicago street. Dante opened the door for them, and Sofia squealed in delight as she ran inside, her energy a sharp contrast to the tension that clung to Maya. The interior was immaculate, yet it carried the subtle weight of unspoken rules and restrained power. Guards were stationed discreetly at entrances, and Dante's assistant appeared, polite but alert, ready for any instruction. "Dinner will be ready shortly," the assistant said. "Maya, your accommodations have been arranged." Maya followed them upstairs, her eyes scanning the minimalist elegance of the space. Every piece of furniture, every artwork, seemed chosen with precision, calculated for effect. It was luxurious, yes, but it was also a fortress. After dinner, Dante called her to the study. Sofia had been tucked into bed, her small form rising from the chair at the dinner table only briefly, to blow Maya a shy wave. "Miss Sullivan," Dante began once they were alone, leaning against the desk, fingers steepled. "I want to be clear about something." His eyes didn't waver from hers. "Sofia's safety isn't negotiable. I expect discretion, I expect competence, and I expect loyalty." Maya swallowed, nodding. "I don't plan to let her down. Or you." He studied her silently, as if weighing her soul. Finally, he leaned back, a ghost of a smile appearing. "Good. You'll start tomorrow. First lesson, patience." The following days were a whirlwind. Maya adapted Sofia's daily schedule into structured lessons, blending medical checkups, speech therapy, and sign language training. She watched as Dante attempted to learn, his large hands clumsy but determined, and she saw a side of him that contradicted the world's whispers. Protective, fiercely loving, and unrelenting in his need to understand his daughter. One evening, as they practiced signing at the study table, Dante paused, his fingers trembling slightly. You really understand her, he said quietly. Maya nodded, smiling softly. I understand children like Sofia. I understand fear. I understand what it means to be invisible. Dante's eyes darkened, almost haunted. Then you know why I can't let anything happen to her. Ever. And in that moment, Maya realized that helping Sofia meant stepping fully into Dante's world not just as a nurse, but as someone who could become entwined in everything. The danger, the power, the love, and the fragile hope that a child's life could be protected in a world built on shadows. But the shadows were already moving. Unbeknownst to Maya, a figure had been observing her from across the street, hidden in the darkened alley. A phone in a gloved hand transmitted her every move to someone who had been waiting years for an opportunity like this. Sofia's safety had drawn her protector and her enemies into a collision course that no amount of kindness or skill could fully anticipate. Maya turned to check on Dante, who was reviewing files beside the desk. He caught her gaze, a warning unspoken yet perfectly understood. In this world, trust was a weapon as much as it was a lifeline. And soon, Maya would have to decide whether she was ready to wield it. The following morning, Maya arrived at the mansion earlier than usual, carrying her bag of medical supplies and lesson plans. The house was quiet, the kind of silence that felt both luxurious and oppressive, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Sofia met her at the bottom of the stairs, yawning and rubbing her eyes. "Morning," she signed quickly, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Today? We learn fast?" Maya crouched down, brushing a strand of hair from Sofia's forehead. "We'll learn at your pace. But we'll make progress, I promise." Dante appeared at the top of the stairs, dressed in a tailored suit, as if he had somewhere to be, though he remained in the house. His gaze lingered on Maya a beat longer than necessary before he nodded curtly. "Keep her close, and keep your phone on." Maya nodded, but the unease that had been prickling at the back of her mind for the last few days intensified. The day passed in a rhythm that was both exhausting and exhilarating. Maya guided Sofia through sign language exercises, reading comprehension, and simple word association. Dante observed from a distance, his large hands occasionally mimicking the signs with surprising accuracy. Maya realized that Sofia's trust in him was absolute, but it was fragile. She was still learning that her papa's world was not safe. Around mid-afternoon, as Maya helped Sofia with a storybook exercise, the mansion's intercom buzzed. Dante answered it, his expression tightening as he listened. Maya watched him carefully. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tension. His jaw clenched, his eyes narrowing, and for a moment, Maya realized she'd never seen him look vulnerable like this, truly tense, as though a storm had arrived unseen. He ended the call abruptly, slamming the intercom button. "Someone's outside," he said flatly, uninvited. Before Maya could respond, Sofia's small hand gripped hers tightly, eyes wide with fear. "Papa? What's outside?" Dante moved toward the window and pulled the curtains aside, revealing a black van parked just beyond the wrought iron gates. A man in a dark hoodie leaned casually against it, but the way he scanned the property made it clear he was more than a passerby. "Visitors?" Maya asked, voice low, hiding the sudden rush of adrenaline. Dante didn't answer immediately. Instead, he gestured for Maya to stay close to Sofia and spoke into a small earpiece. "Now." Within seconds, 2 of his guards appeared silently at the staircase, and 2 more flanked the main entrance. Dante's control over the situation was absolute, yet the danger in his eyes was real. "They're watching, waiting, testing," he muttered. Maya's pulse quickened. She had worked in chaos before, but this was different. This wasn't an ER emergency, it was a predator outside the walls, and she and Sofia were prey by association. Sofia noticed the tension in Dante's stance. "Papa, scared?" she signed timidly. Dante crouched to her level, brushing her hair back gently. "I am, but I won't let anyone hurt you. Ever." Maya stepped forward, signing beside him. "It's okay, Sofia. He's here, and we'll stay safe together. Trust him." Sofia's hands hesitated, then relaxed against Dante's chest. Maya felt the fragile thread of security holding in the room, but she knew it wouldn't last long. Hours passed in a tense, silent standoff. The man in the van didn't move, didn't signal, didn't approach, but the message was clear. He was waiting, watching, calculating. By evening, Dante finally allowed Maya to leave, insisting she return the next day for Sofia's continued lessons. But as she stepped into the cold night air and glanced back at the mansion, she couldn't shake the feeling that the danger was already following her, invisible but inevitable. Back in her apartment, Maya found her phone buzzing with a message she hadn't expected. "We know who you are. Keep helping Sofia, or she suffers. Unknown." Maya's hands trembled as she set the phone down. She had entered Dante Caruso's world willingly to save a child, but now she understood that the shadows were real and that by helping Sofia, she had painted a target on herself. Somewhere in Chicago, the city's underworld was watching. And Maya Sullivan, nurse and protector, was now a player in a game she hadn't asked to join. And the first move had already been made. The next morning, Maya arrived at the mansion to find Dante pacing the study, his expression sharp, eyes shadowed with worry. Sofia was already at the table, coloring quietly, her small hands moving almost nervously across the page. "You're early," Dante said without looking at her, voice tight. "Good. We need to review yesterday's visitor." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "You think they're coming back?" He finally turned to her, dark eyes locking onto hers. "They always come back. Anyone who wants what I protect my territory, my family, they test boundaries first. Yesterday was just the opening move." Maya swallowed. She was a nurse, trained to save lives, but this wasn't a patient with a fever or a broken bone. This was a predator, unseen and unpredictable, targeting a child. Sofia noticed the tension in the room and paused, looking up at Dante. "Papa, safe?" She signed quickly, small brows furrowed. Dante crouched beside her, fingers brushing her hair back. "I will make sure you're safe," he signed back, voice low but firm. "No one will touch you." Maya knelt beside them, adding her reassurance. "I'm here too, Sofia. We're a team. You're safe, okay?" Sofia's fingers moved hesitantly before settling in a small, trusting handshake with Maya. The girl's fragile faith was a weight on Maya's heart, one she couldn't betray. Around mid-afternoon, Dante received a call on a secured line. His expression hardened with every word. When he hung up, Maya dared not ask. The tension was palpable. "They know more than I thought," he said quietly. "And they're moving faster." Maya's mind raced. "Faster? What does that mean?" "They're coming for Sofia," Dante said bluntly. "I've kept her isolated, protected, but someone with resources is planning a breach. Today, or tomorrow, could be the first attempt." Maya's stomach dropped. She had spent the last few days teaching Sofia, helping her speak through her hands, helping Dante communicate, but now, all of it could be shattered in an instant. Dante's phone buzzed again. This time he didn't answer. Instead, he looked at Maya, his gaze piercing. "You're going to stay close. No errands alone. No exposure. Understand?" "I understand," Maya said firmly, her voice steady despite the growing panic in her chest. By evening, Maya was giving Sofia her bedtime routine when the first sound came, a low, insistent tapping at one of the mansion's outer windows. The timing was precise. It didn't trigger alarms or alert the guards immediately. It was subtle, meant to unsettle. Sofia froze, small hands gripping Maya's arm. "Papa?" she whispered through signs. Dante appeared behind them in seconds, gliding across the room like a shadow himself. "Stay calm," he instructed softly, scanning the perimeter. The tapping stopped as he approached, but the tension remained. "That was a test," Dante murmured. "They're probing our defenses, seeing how alert we are. It won't be their last attempt." Maya's pulse raced. She realized this was no longer just teaching Sofia, this was training, to her to survive. Every lesson in communication, patience, and understanding had to be paired with vigilance. Every moment outside Dante's sight could be dangerous. Sofia looked up at her, fear and trust intertwining in her eyes. "We okay?" she signed. Maya knelt, placing her hands over the child's. "We're okay," she signed back. "And we'll stay okay, I promise." Dante watched silently from the doorway, his dark eyes calculating. Then, without warning, he spoke softly, almost to himself. The world will see her as weak. But they don't understand. They can't. Not if I have anything to say about it. Maya realized then that helping Sofia meant more than just teaching a little girl to speak again. It meant standing guard in a world where every shadow could be a threat, where every glance outside could conceal danger, and where trust was the most fragile and most dangerous weapon of all. And somewhere in Chicago, the unknown figure in the black van was already planning their next move. Maya Sullivan, nurse and protector, had entered a battlefield without ever picking up a weapon. But she would learn fast that in Dante Caruso's world, even a nurse could fight. It was past midnight when the first real attack came. Maya had been in Sofia's room, helping her with a new sign language exercise, when a low rumble echoed through the mansion. At first, she thought it was a car outside, but then came the sharp, metallic scrape against the outer gate. Dante appeared in the doorway before she could even move, silent and imposing, eyes scanning every shadow. "They're here," he said quietly, voice like steel. "Stay close to her. Do exactly as I say." Sofia clutched Maya's hand, trembling, her small body pressed against hers. "Papa, scary," she signed. Dante crouched beside them, brushing her hair back gently. "I will protect you," he signed firmly. "No one will hurt you. Trust me." Maya nodded, adrenaline surging through her. This was no longer a test. This was the moment she had feared since stepping into Dante's world. From the study, Dante's guards moved swiftly, securing entrances and windows, while he activated the mansion's security protocols. Cameras, motion sensors, silent alarms, everything was online in seconds. Maya realized how extensive Dante's precautions were, yet the knowledge that someone had breached the perimeter at all sent a chill down her spine. A sudden, sharp crash echoed from the west wing. A window had been forced open. Maya's heart leapt into her throat. "Sofia," she whispered, tightening her grip. Dante was already moving, a shadow of authority and danger. "Stay here," he commanded. His long stride carried him toward the sound, guards at his heels. Maya followed instinctively, keeping Sofia between them, her hands ready to protect. In the corridor, masked intruders were already inside. They moved cautiously, but with deadly intent. One of them froze as Dante's voice cut through the darkness. "Leave now. You won't get what you came for." Shots rang out non-lethal rounds, but loud enough to make hearts stop. Maya instinctively pressed Sofia to the floor, covering her small body with her own. The intruders hesitated, assessing the situation, but Dante's presence radiated control, and they could sense he was not bluffing. One of the men tried to rush them, but Dante was faster, blocking the path with a fluid motion, his body a wall of unyielding power. A second intruder aimed a flashbang, but Dante's guard intercepted it, and chaos erupted. Maya's mind raced. She had no training in combat, no weapons, but she had a child to protect. Using the momentary distraction, she scooped Sofia into her arms and retreated toward a secured stairwell. Her heart pounded, breath ragged, but every movement was precise, calm, controlled, protective. Dante's voice cut through the chaos. "Go, now." They moved through a secret passageway Dante had shown only to a trusted few. It led to a safe room beneath the mansion, soundproofed and fortified. Once inside, Maya set Sofia down gently, her hands trembling. "You're safe now," she signed, voice low but firm. Sofia's eyes were wide, fear and awe mingling as she clung to Maya. "Papa?" she signed. "He's handling it," Maya signed back. "He won't let anything happen to you. I promise." From the safe room, they could hear the muffled sounds of confrontation, shouts, scuffles, the occasional thud of bodies hitting walls. Maya realized how deeply dangerous Dante's world was, and how exposed they had been, even with all precautions. Hours passed before Dante returned, his expression controlled but unreadable. Sofia ran into his arms without hesitation, burying her face against his chest. Maya stepped back, her chest heaving, realizing how close they had come to disaster. Dante turned to her, his dark eyes softening for the first time since the night had begun. "You did well," he said quietly, almost a whisper. "You protected her." Maya shook her head, exhausted. "I just followed instinct." "No," Dante corrected. "You understood. You saw what mattered and acted. Not everyone can do that. Not everyone can see a child the way you do." Sofia's small hand reached out to Maya, gripping hers tightly. Maya smiled, signing gently. We made it. We're okay." For a brief moment, the three of them stood together, safe but aware that this was only the beginning. The attack had been a warning, a test of loyalty, skill, and courage. And Maya knew, deep down, that protecting Sofia meant stepping fully into Dante's dangerous world, where every shadow could hide a threat, every ally could be a spy, and every decision could have life or death consequences. As she left the safe room, Dante's voice followed her. "Tomorrow, we prepare for what comes next, and you, Miss Sullivan, will need to be ready." Maya nodded. She had no choice, not when Sofia's life depended on her. The morning after the attack, the mansion was eerily quiet. Guards patrolled the grounds in tight, practiced formations, and Dante moved through the halls like a coiled spring, always alert, always calculating. Maya arrived with her bag of materials, her nerves still raw from the night before. Sofia met her at the bottom of the stairs, her small face pale but determined. "Lesson today?" she signed, fingers trembling slightly. Maya crouched down to her level. "Yes," she said softly. "But first, we practice staying calm, even when things feel scary." Dante appeared behind them, leaning against the banister. His gaze swept over Maya, assessing her with that same intensity that had made her heart race from the moment she met him. "They will try again," he said quietly. "Tonight, or tomorrow. We don't know. You need to understand the risks." Maya nodded. "I understand. I'll keep her safe." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "And you'll need to make quick decisions. No hesitation. Protect her at all costs." Maya felt the weight of his words settle on her shoulders. She was a nurse, trained to heal, to comfort, but this world required more. Strategy, anticipation, survival. The day passed with a tense rhythm. Maya focused on Sofia's lessons, alternating between sign language and reading exercises, but she couldn't ignore the ever-present awareness that danger lurked beyond the mansion walls. Every unfamiliar sound made Sofia flinch. Every car that passed the gates was a potential threat. By evening, Dante gathered Maya and Sofia in the study. "We need to train differently now," he said. He pulled a tablet from his desk, showing layouts of the mansion, security camera feeds, and potential escape routes. "You must know every exit, every blind spot. You need to be ready if they breach again." Maya's pulse quickened as she scanned the plans. She realized that protecting Sofia wasn't just about lessons and care. It was about being alert, thinking ahead, and acting decisively in moments of crisis. Sofia watched, wide-eyed but attentive. "We safe?" she signed quietly. Maya knelt beside her, fingers brushing her hair. "We will be," she signed back. "We're learning how to be safe together." Dante's gaze softened for a moment as he observed them, but then hardened again. "Tonight, you will sleep in the same wing as Sofia," he said, "in case they attempt another breach. No one leaves your sight. Not for a second." Maya nodded, her mind racing through strategies. She had never felt so responsible for a life, not just for Sofia's physical safety, but for her trust, her fragile sense of security. As night fell, Maya and Sofia settled into the adjoining room. Maya kept a careful watch over the monitors Dante had provided, tracking every motion sensor and camera feed. Hours passed with tension coiling in her chest. Around midnight, a faint shadow moved near the outer gate. Maya's heart leapt. She alerted Dante quietly through a secure line, and within moments, the mansion's lights flickered and guards were in position. The shadow hesitated and then retreated, slipping into the darkness. Maya exhaled shakily. "They're testing again," she whispered, brushing a strand of hair from Sofia's face. "We'll be ready next time." Sofia pressed her small hands against Maya's cheek. "Promise. Safe," she signed. Maya nodded, signing back, her voice firm. "I promise, Sofia. No one will hurt you while I'm here." Dante's voice came from the monitor, low and steady. "Good. You're learning quickly. That's what it takes to survive in this world." Maya realized then that her role had changed completely. She was no longer just a nurse. She was a protector, a teacher, a strategist, and every decision she made could mean the difference between safety and catastrophe for the little girl who had come into her life so suddenly. And somewhere in Chicago, the shadows were moving closer, waiting for the right moment to strike. But Maya Sullivan was ready. The mansion was silent, too silent. Even the usual hum of the city seemed muffled behind the fortified walls. Maya sat beside Sofia on the plush couch, going over flashcards for new signs. But every creak of the floorboards made her flinch. Dante was in the study, monitoring the security feeds, his jaw tight. He didn't speak unless necessary, but the tension radiating from him was impossible to ignore. Maya could feel the storm approaching. Then, around midnight, it began. The lights flickered, and alarms blared softly through the mansion, a warning signal Dante had set for intruders. Maya's heart jumped. She immediately scooped Sofia into her arms, moving toward the safe room Dante had prepared for emergencies. "Stay calm," Maya signed quickly, whispering even as adrenaline surged. "We'll be okay, I promise." Sofia clung to her tightly, small fingers gripping the collar of her scrubs. "Papa?" she signed, eyes wide. "He's handling it." Maya signed back, glancing at the monitors. Figures were moving near the gates, shadowy silhouettes in the night. Dante appeared behind her in a flash, his presence commanding. "Go, now," he ordered. Guards followed silently, blocking entrances and exits. Maya ran, navigating the hidden corridors with practiced precision, Sofia secure in her arms. From the monitors, Dante coordinated the mansion's defense. Motion sensors lit up, doors locked automatically, and guards intercepted intruders before they could penetrate deeper. But one masked figure had slipped past. Moving swiftly and silently toward the safe room, Maya felt her pulse hammer in her ears. The intruder's hand reached for the door just as she slammed it shut, locking it and sliding a heavy bolt into place. Sofia whimpered, pressing her face into Maya's chest. "Scared," she signed. "I know, sweetheart," Maya signed back. "But we're safe here. I won't let anything happen to you." Suddenly, the door rattled violently. The intruder was trying to force it open. Maya's mind raced, no weapons, no combat training, just a child's safety resting in her hands. She grabbed a nearby chair and wedged it against the door, holding it with all her strength. Dante's voice came through a secure intercom. "Maya, hold her close. Guards are on their way. Don't let them in." The rattling intensified, followed by muffled shouts. Maya's arms ached from holding Sofia, but she didn't release her grip. The girl's small hands found hers, fingers entwining, grounding her fear. Minutes stretched into eternity. Then, the sounds of struggle stopped. The door held. Guards had intercepted the intruder just outside. Dante's silhouette appeared in the doorway moments later, dark and commanding. "They won't succeed," he said quietly, scanning Maya and Sofia. "Not while I breathe." Maya exhaled shakily, setting Sofia down on the floor. The girl's face was pale, but she smiled weakly. "Safe?" she signed. "Yes," Maya signed back, brushing her hair from her forehead. "Completely safe." Dante stepped closer, placing a large hand gently on Maya's shoulder. "You did well," he said, voice low but sincere. "You protected her when it mattered most." Maya shook her head, exhausted but resolute. "We protected her. Together." Sofia ran into Dante's arms, burying her face against his chest. Maya watched them, realizing that the night had changed everything. The threats were real, the danger constant, but so was the trust forming between them. And as she glanced at the mansion's perimeter, dark and silent once more, Maya knew one truth with absolute clarity. She had stepped into Dante Caruso's world, completely, and there was no turning back. Because in his world, protecting something precious meant risking everything, even your own life. The next morning, the mansion hummed with quiet efficiency. Guards patrolled every corridor, cameras scanned every angle, and Dante moved with the precision of a general planning an operation. Maya arrived, her bag of supplies in hand, and found Sofia waiting at the breakfast table, her small hands tracing letters in the condensation on her glass. "Lesson today?" she signed, glancing up with wide, curious eyes. "Yes," Maya signed back, crouching beside her. "But first, we're going to learn how to stay calm and alert, even when we're scared." "You remember last night, right?" Sofia nodded slowly, her small fingers intertwining with Maya's. "Scared, but safe," she signed. Maya smiled, squeezing her hand. "Exactly, and we're going to practice that every day." Dante appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable but his presence commanding. "They will try again," he said quietly. "And next time, it may not be just a test. You need to be ready." Maya's pulse quickened. She had learned the basics of sign language, comfort, and protection, But this was something new. She was no longer simply a teacher or a nurse. She had to become a strategist, a guardian, and an observer, all at once. Throughout the day, Maya guided Sofia through her lessons. While integrating safety exercises, they practiced moving silently from room to room, checking locks, and identifying escape routes. Each drill was simple on the surface, but reinforced awareness, calm under pressure, and trust between them. "You're doing well," Dante said at one point, observing from a distance. "Every step you take teaches her that she can rely on you, and every step teaches you how fragile safety can be." By late afternoon, Dante called Maya to the study. The large screens displayed intelligence gathered on the intruders, the same masked figures from the night before. Their identities weren't fully known, but patterns indicated they were professionals, organized, and patient. "They're persistent," Dante said, voice low. "They know my family is a target, they're calculating, and they won't stop until they get what they want." Maya's stomach tightened. "So, we stay ready? Always?" "Yes," he said simply. "And you, Miss Sullivan, are part of that readiness. Sofia's safety now depends on more than guards and walls. It depends on trust, awareness, and courage. You've proven you have all three." The sun dipped below the Chicago skyline, casting long shadows across the mansion grounds. Maya tucked Sofia into bed, the girl's hands brushing hers in a silent thank you. "We'll be okay," Maya signed, her voice soft. "I promise." Outside, the mansion lights glimmered against the darkness, a fortress against unseen eyes. But Maya knew the attacks would come. Again. The previous night had been a warning. Tonight, the stakes would be higher. And for the first time, Maya realized she wasn't just protecting Sofia from strangers. She was being drawn deeper into Dante Caruso's dangerous world. A world where trust was fragile, danger was constant, and every decision could mean life or death. As she watched Dante review the security feeds, Maya understood one truth with absolute clarity. She could not run, she could not hide, and she would not fail. Because Sofia's life and the fragile trust between them depended on her. And in Dante's world, that trust was everything. The night was heavy with anticipation. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak of the mansion amplified by the adrenaline coursing through Maya's veins. She had spent hours with Sofia, teaching, practicing, and reassuring her, but the girl's wide eyes betrayed a quiet fear. "They'll come tonight," Dante said, standing near the monitors in the study. His voice was low, controlled, almost a growl. "They've been testing, waiting, calculating, and now they know exactly what they want." Maya's hands tightened around the edge of the table. "Sofia?" she whispered, though Dante had already assessed the child's presence. "She's not just your patient anymore," he said, eyes dark and unreadable. "She's a target. You both need to understand that." By 11:45 p.m., the first sign appeared: a black van parked just beyond the perimeter, movement flashing on the motion sensors. Maya pressed herself against the wall with Sofia, signaling calm. "Stay calm," she signed, her own fingers trembling slightly. "We're ready. I won't let anything happen to you." Dante moved through the mansion like a shadow, coordinating guards, activating lockdown protocols, and preparing countermeasures. Maya watched him, a mix of awe and fear in her chest. Every motion he made radiated authority and lethal precision. The intruders struck. Suddenly, doors rattled, alarms blared, and masked figures poured onto the grounds. Maya felt her heart hammering, her hands gripping Sofia tightly. The safe room's reinforced doors were their only refuge. "They're trying the West Wing," Dante barked over a secure channel. "Hold the child. Do not let anyone in." Maya pressed herself against the wall, shielding Sofia as the intruders forced a side entrance. She could hear the muffled sounds of struggle, guards countering the attack, the thud of bodies hitting reinforced barriers. Sofia's small hands gripped hers tightly. "Stay with me," Maya whispered, signing quickly. "We will be okay. Trust me." Minutes stretched into an eternity, each one filled with tension so thick it seemed to press against her chest. Then, suddenly, the commotion stopped. The intruders had been repelled, their plans thwarted by Dante's meticulous security and swift, decisive guards. Dante appeared moments later in the doorway, dark eyes, scanning for any threat. "They've retreated for now," he said, voice tight. "But make no mistake, this is far from over. They will be back. And next time, It could be worse. Maya exhaled shakily, setting Sofia down gently. The girl's face was pale, but she managed a small smile. Safe? She signed. Yes. Maya signed back, brushing her hair from her face. Completely safe. Dante stepped closer, his large hand resting briefly on Maya's shoulder. You did well, he said quietly, almost a whisper. You protected her when it mattered most. Not just with your hands, but with your instincts. That's rare. Maya shook her head, exhaustion and relief mingling. We protected her. Together. Sofia ran into Dante's arms, burying her face against his chest. Maya watched them, understanding something profound. The night had changed everything. The threats were real, the danger constant, but so was the fragile trust between them. As the mansion settled into an uneasy calm, Maya realized the truth. She was no longer simply a nurse. She was a protector, a strategist, and a shield. Every moment of vigilance, every lesson with Sofia, every decision she made, it all mattered. And in Dante Caruso's world, where shadows hid deadly intent and loyalty was everything, Maya knew one undeniable fact. If she failed, no one would forgive her. Because protecting Sofia meant risking everything, even her own life. And Maya Sullivan was ready. The following morning, the mansion was eerily calm. The attack had been repelled, but the tension lingered like a shadow over every hallway. Maya sat with Sofia at the breakfast table, the girl's small hands tracing letters on the tablecloth, her eyes wide but trusting. They'll come again, Dante said quietly, appearing behind them, his dark gaze scanning the horizon. And next time, we need to be ready not just to defend, but to strike before they can act. Maya's stomach twisted. Strike? This wasn't medicine. This was war. But she had learned enough to know there was no other choice. Protecting Sofia meant anticipating every move, predicting every threat. It meant stepping fully into Dante's dangerous world. She nodded. Then we plan. We prepare. Sofia stays safe. Dante studied her, as though weighing her very soul. Good, he said finally. You've learned fast. That's why I trust you. For the rest of the day, they worked together. Dante revealed intelligence on the intruders. Masked figures, coordinated, well-funded. They discussed patterns, probable targets, weaknesses. Maya contributed what she knew from observing human behavior. Her intuition honed from years as a nurse, caring for the frightened and vulnerable. By evening, Dante initiated a controlled countermeasure. Guards were strategically placed, cameras monitored every possible approach, and Maya prepared Sofia with new drills, silent movement, signaling danger, and seeking cover. Each exercise was a lesson in calm and vigilance. Night fell. The mansion lay under a heavy cloak of quiet, but Maya knew better. She kept watch with Sofia in the secure room, monitors blinking in front of her. At midnight, movement appeared outside the perimeter. This time, the intruders were more organized, more aggressive, but Dante and his team were ready. Maya held Sofia close, whispering reassurance as guards intercepted the attackers. Shots rang out, alarms screamed, and Maya's heart pounded. But through it all, Sofia remained calm, her small hands entwined with Maya's. When the intruders attempted to breach the safe room, guards neutralized them before they could reach the child. When the last shadow disappeared into the night, Dante entered the safe room, his dark eyes scanning for any sign of harm. Maya set Sofia down gently, brushing strands of hair from her face. She's safe, Maya said softly, more to herself than anyone else. Completely safe. Dante stepped closer, placing a large hand on Maya's shoulder. You've done more than protect her, he said quietly. You've given her hope, courage, and trust. That's worth more than anything I could offer in wealth or resources. Maya shook her head. We did it together. I didn't do it alone. Sofia ran into Dante's arms, burying her face against his chest. Maya watched the two of them, realizing that her role had shifted forever. She wasn't just a nurse. She was a protector, a bridge, a constant presence in a world where danger could appear at any moment. Over the next weeks, life settled into a tense rhythm. Maya taught Sofia, trained her, and strengthened the bond between father and daughter through communication, patience, and vigilance. Dante's enemies tested the mansion periodically, but each time, they were met with careful strategy, alertness, and unwavering protection. Through it all, Maya's presence became a source of calm for Sofia and a trusted ally for Dante. She learned to navigate the complexities of his world, the silent threats, the calculated dangers, the fine line between trust and betrayal, and she realized something profound. Her courage, empathy, and steady hands had become a weapon in their own right. One evening, as the sun dipped behind Chicago's skyline, Dante stood beside the mansion gates with Sofia in his arms. Maya joined them, her own hands brushing the child's hair back, signing, "We're safe. For now." Sofia smiled, small hands finding Maya's. "Safe. With you," she signed. Dante's dark eyes met Maya's, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. "You've done more than anyone could ask," he said. "You saved her in ways that go beyond life and death. You've become part of this family." Maya swallowed hard. I just wanted to help." "You did more than help," Dante said, voice low but firm. "You protected what mattered most. And in this world, that is everything." For the first time since that night in the ER, Maya felt a fragile sense of peace. The threats had not vanished, the danger had not disappeared, but Sofia was safe. And for now, that was enough. And as they watched the city lights flicker across the skyline, Maya realized she had found something she hadn't expected, a place where her courage, her compassion, and her heart mattered more than anything else. A little girl's trust, a father's gratitude, and the bond they had all forged together. And Maya Sullivan knew, without doubt, she would never walk away again.